Excuse the technical difficulties. I'm back again, family, with a spiritual message. I'm full of spiritual messages. I actually feel really good with getting this out to the collective and fulfilling my purpose and my mission one day at a time, one step at a time. So basically, I'm getting intuitively guided to guide the collective and let them know a few things. I want you to know that the U.S. corporation of America is falling, but America, the land, is not falling. 111 on the clock on the timer. The lands, the sacred lands of America, the sacred lands of the Aborigines of America, the American Negroes, the American Indians. Those are the originals of America. Everybody else came over here. We are the originals of the earth and of this sacred land of America. And I want you to know that this is a metamorphosis with the original Americans and connecting to back to our land and the spirit, connecting back to source, connecting back to the Heavenly Father, connecting back to ourselves, to our ancestors, to nature, to the animals and how they lead and how they guide us, connecting back to our tribes, our nations, which use the animals and to live, to warm themselves, to guide them through their earth walk, to guide them through their lives. You can learn a lot by watching animals and our ancestors and or know that now. Um I want you all to know that the US corporation is falling because it was built on lies, deception, thievery, kidnapping the original people of America who were free and sovereign, enslaving them during different time periods, stealing their land, stealing their farms, stealing and burning down prosperous communities of Indian communities, which are we were just called Indians, and living people and hanging people, and the US corporation was stealing the original aboriginals of America's children for a long time, and they found ways and loopholes as we see today to get away with that corruption, to get away with stealing our children from our people, to get away with stealing them away from their families and their tribes, and killing the elders and the older people, and then taking the children of the Aborigine Americans that everybody calls blacks today in America, stealing their children and putting them in Indian schools and boarding schools, brainwashing them of their culture, stripping them of their heritage and their lineage. That is how that occurred. The U.S. corporation is connected to that. The U.S. corporation is operating on the lands of America, 404 on the timer. This is our home. This is our land. Our ancestors' souls and spirits are still on this land in the millions. The U.S. corporation has stole and did every horrible, evil, wicked thing to the Aboriginal Americans. And then you look at us today as a people and look at all the dysfunction, and people just say, oh, those are just low people. Those are just people that are just, they don't have a community. They don't have this. They don't have any unity. But imagine being torn apart for hundreds of years. Males murdered in front of their wives and families, wives raped, children abused and brainwashed and manipulated, land stolen from you, heritage stripped from you, and it given to other people that were from Siberia and different parts of Asia that are not indigenous to the Americas. Your sovereignty being ripped away from you as American Indians, as Tamarican Indians, as one of the names of America is Tamari. America and Tamari is the real world, the old world. It's only new to foreigners. We've been here. So when we see the breakdown and the fall of the United States system of America operating on America, really illegally, because This land belongs to the Aboriginals. They've been able to do this as long as they've been able to keep the original Aboriginal Americans asleep, spiritually dead, spiritually corrupted, caught in lust, trapped in the ego, trapped in chasing money, trapped in chasing, everything of the physical realm, instead of connecting back to their spiritual supports, their spiritual family, their ancestors, ancient ancestors, connecting back to the land, connecting back to the true source. Why the United States corporation is falling, because they are no longer able to destroy the so-called American Black people, which are really the original people of America, and lie to them about their heritage and culture, while stripping and stealing everything away from them and giving it to foreigners of light and dark skin. This is why the US corporation is falling at this time. And this is a spiritual message that I've been led to share with the collective. We, as Aboriginal Americans, the so-called Blacks in America, the Tamaracan Indians, we know how corrupted this government is. We know from firsthand experience. We were here before the government or the colonies or any of them came over here. We seen and know everything too much. Yes, we eventually got brainwashed and we was going to war, and they was taking our children and putting them in Indian schools and indoctrinating them with Christianity, and teaching them about white Jesus and how to worship white Jesus, and telling them that they're just Black and they were born to submit and to be slaves and to be servants, etc. That's what happened. At the same time, they're killing our elders. They're burning our ancient libraries with our books in them. That's the first thing they did when they got a foothold in certain areas of the land of America. They started to burn our ancient libraries. When they was going to war, a lot of that's the one thing that they don't tell. When it comes to war, we were winning at war as a collective. Yes, many of our people died, 100 million. That's our story. But guess what? We're survivors of that. The Gullah Wars, hundreds of years of wars with our people fighting the oppressors. And guess what? They weren't all pale-faced Caucasians. They were Black Europeans as well. It wasn't just the Caucasians. They had to be led over here by somebody that was more older and ancient than them, that knew the waterways, that knew the routes. So I just want you guys to know that everything that this US corporation pushes to the world about the so-called Black Americans and who we are and how we got snatched up from Africa, all of that is a lie. It's a lie. They saw us and met us when they came here. It was literally called Negro land, Indian land, Choctaw Nation. All of this is us. We are the original people of the world, the beginning and the end. Any and all people of the ancient world know. That's why they had to burn our libraries and condition us to disconnect us from our culture, to disconnect us from our heritage, to try to disconnect us from our land that we're still on by creating a lie, building fake African American museums. See, this is the truth that they don't want you to know. You know why Martin Luther King, a so-called Black man, has a statue in Washington, D.C.? Because he led his people into a burning house and he felt on it and they killed him. That's the truth. We were sovereign Americans. Ain't nobody going to be coming here asking for a check for our stolen lands if you're a foreigner. No, these are lands that was already ours. Plymouth Rock landed on us. We didn't land on Plymouth Rock. Martin Luther King said they took our farms from us, and in order to mechanize our farms, they created farming institutions and colleges, taxpayer government money to act, thank you, Spirit, to act as a lifter up, to teach the pilgrims that came over here how to farm because they didn't know how to farm on our land. We grew everything on our land. We are the original Americans. We make things move and shake over here. Without us, there's no America. That's what the US government doesn't want everybody to know. But they can't hide it anymore. They can't hide our culture and our heritage from us anymore. We see through the lies. 111 on the timer. We see Eurasians from Siberia and we look at them and we say, oh, that's not your culture. That can't be your culture. That's mine. Before, when we were in the age of Pisces, we were just going with the flow. Oh, just, right or wrong, just go with the flow. That's just the way things are. That was so-called Black Americans' number one go-to. Oh, that's just the way things are. That's just the way things are. That's just the way things are. No more of that. We're in the age of I know. I know who I am. I know where my people are from. I know where my culture is from, where my heritage is from. I know my ancient roots. I'm connected. Nobody can lie to you anymore. You're able to see through the illusion and see through the veil. I just want everybody to know that the US corporation is falling because of how disgusting and down low and just every horrible word that you can think of that they've done to the original Americans, the so-called Black Americans. We're just the Americans, but everybody could be called, wants to be called America and American at the end of the day in America. But the original Aborigines, the original Tamarican Indians that have ancestral ties, blood ties to the land. Our ancestors are buried within the earth of the land in the millions, more than any other fauna that can come here. Our blood is infused in the land. The land is infused in our DNA because we've been here for so long. We are a part of the ecosystem. You can't continue to exterminate Americans on their land. Our ancestors are no longer going for it. And when you see Earth is fighting back, the Earth is awakening. The Earth feels parasites on her and she is pushing them off, getting them off of her. This is spiritual. This is metaphysical. That the so-called president is called commander in chief. We had tribes and we had chiefs. That's our heritage. That's our culture. We are the Americans. The land of the brave, the home of the free. That's in our bloodline. That's us. That's the people that everybody calls Black Americans and tell them that they have no heritage and culture, but everybody wants to be an American though. Everybody wants to come. Everybody wants to eat off of America, eat off of the original Americans. But then everybody wants to turn around and say, oh, you guys are just Black. You guys are just Black people. You don't have a heritage. You don't have a culture. But what the government withholds and steals away from the Aboriginal Americans, which they have been doing for hundreds of years, they give to the who isn't. The Aboriginals are always treated the worst in the land, especially after colonization. The government will give money away to foreigners that haven't did anything to build America, but withhold loans, grants, land, resources from the original Tamarican Indians in our home and our land. And then look us in our face and tell us to pull ourselves up by our bootstraps. That's wicked and that's evil. All great civilizations fall, but this one is an infantile civilization compared to had way more longevity and way more class, to be honest. I know that. My ancestors showed me. It's documentation to prove it. We weren't over here picking cotton because we were being forced to at a certain time period. Yeah, they enslaved. We became prisoners of war for a certain period of time, but we were already picking cotton. It's called Egyptian cotton for a reason. Ancient Egypt is located in America, the first one, the first Kemet, the land of the black soil. That's us. We're the Americans. We grow and harvest the cotton. We come from an agricultural society. We grow the corn. We come from an agricultural society. The fruits and the vegetables. Tilling the land, feeding the animals, connecting to nature. This is our culture. This is our ancient culture. Going all the way back into the beginning of time, we are the originals. So when of the planet. So when you see so-called Black Americans and you see them beat down to the ground and you see them in levels of warfare of over hundreds of years that we have been faced with directly, that you won't know until you being affected, certain Latino groups, certain so-called Native American groups that they are, and the government is turning on them, like we all know so well, know that those people are not organic to the land of of the Americas. But since they were born and native, because they were born in certain areas of the Americas, they'll ship them out after they're done with using them and send them back and let the governments in those lands do what they want to do with them. See, when the government is done with you, they wipe us. They know they needed us. We were skilled, we were growers, we had different abilities that they needed out us and got rich off of our labor, off of trapping us in years. It was all about employment. Enslavement is employment. In the North, it was okay, you'll work, you'll sign this contract, we'll give you, give racist towards us as the Aboriginal Americans. It still is now. But one thing about it, two things for certain, even the most racist Caucasian, descendant from those that are from the colonies from Europe that were sent over here, they know at the end of the day who runs America for real, who keeps it running, who keeps it going, whose labor keeps it going, whose energy keeps it going. It's all about manipulating the mind. And if they've done such a good job, imagine the level of programming and mental manipulation and spiritual and biological warfare that the true Americans are going through and have been going through in America as Aboriginal Americans. See, they had to strip us of our heritage and our cultures because we're on our land. And they wanted our control of our land in order to control us. Because in order to run the world, because our ancestors were global rulers of the world, you have to control America. Whether you're here in America, whether you are somewhere else and you have control of certain things that happen in America and control of the certain Americans, you have to control America in order to control the world. Because our ancestors ruled from right here for a very long time, way longer than we were enslaved for the 400 to 500 years in which they claim. And prior to that, in ancient Egypt, that was also in America, where our ancient ancestors, because we are the original Hebrew is Israel, and over here in America, and ancient Egypt, Kemet, is both from right here. That's why with Moses, he was able to blend in. He was Hebrew. He was able to blend in with the Ethiopians. He was of not so well. We are of the same bloodline. We just had different ways of living, different spiritual systems, different ways of living. But there were spiritual differences back then, just like it is right now. So when you really look at it, and you look at all of the things that the archaeologists find in America, they found right over here in America the emerald tablets with, I believe, Paleo Hebrew or Phoenician written on it. They found ancient stones, ancient coins, ancient. America is the old world. And am I telling too much truth? It says reconnecting. Hey, hi, you guys who are still here. And once you start connecting these dots and you start connecting these pieces, once you start connecting these dots and you start Okay, YouTube is not responding right now. Okay. Once you start connecting the dots and you start connecting the pieces, you start seeing why things are happening the way that they're happening right now in America. You start seeing it. You start seeing it and you start seeing the reflection of why they take images and say the ancient Egyptians are Caucasian. And they don't even want anybody to think that they have dark skin. Why the ancient Hebrews are always ish or Jew, about Buddha and the hair that Buddha has. And then you learn that the original people of Hindu and the Buddhists, before they expanded their empire to Asia, were right over here in the Grand Canyon in different areas, Negroes with coily hair and afros. So we start seeing a common thing. The Phoenicians are from over here in America. The Atlanteans are from over here in America. The ancient Mayans are from over here in the Americas. We didn't have borders. This was just our land. We respected different people and different tribes and etc. and nations. We didn't just have tribes. We had nations. We had tribes. We had nations. We had metropolises. We had cities. We had universities. We had the Olympic sports and stuff like that. The Olympia, we had that, where the bet comes from. And ancient Greeks are the originals of America. So when you start looking